with everyone's permission, of course. I would always send a clip beforehand, and I'm just going to let in one of the note takers instead of all 5, and I'll be sure to send it afterwards. Okay. All right, Miss Casey, take it away.
Cool. Yeah, so I will kick us off. We probably won't need the whole time for at least my portion, but you guys are welcome to take over once I'm done and discuss things like next steps or whatever you kind of have in mind. So like, mentally prepare for that, I suppose. I'm going to share my screen. Let's make sure this works properly. You never know if I'll have a hard time sharing my screen. Okay, I think it worked pretty decently. Everyone can see it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So, okay. All right. So a few things have been going on in the background in terms of the UX research side. And I will just maybe a little FYI. I do have a full-time job as well as a part-time contract role, so squeezing in some extra time has been tough. So I will say I'm a little bit more behind than I would personally like to be, but I think we can still work with this. So I'll go into more detail on that in a second. But basically, with this, for those who filled it out and kind of know, you'll already know, but just to kind of recap a little bit, I wanted to bring everyone to this like headspace of like thinking of different ideas and thinking of, the mission behind this and all that kind of stuff. And then also for my side, on the research side, this is a great way to just generate ideas, new things we haven't thought about, things that we could like ask questions about to the actual potential users in the future. So it has a lot of really good benefits behind that. And sorry, I didn't introduce myself, but just FYI, I'm a senior researcher. So I'm newer to the research game in the sense that before this, I was a designer, and then before that, I was a developer. So I've been doing a lot of stuff, but research is my bread and butter for sure. So yeah, I just asked a bunch of questions, and we'll go over those in a second. But you can see it's a lot going on, and we're just putting down all these different ideas and concepts. And so from there, I did a rough sort. So that's just very nothing too crazy going on, just trying to sort general themes. And then from there, I got a little more specific. And I will say, if there is something that you have some free time and you want to read through something, this would be a good thing to go ahead and read through. We're going to go through some of this, but not a whole ton. But this is just a great way to like see everything in an organized fashion where we see these themes and we can see what stands out to people the most. What was really great about this work in general was there's a lot of really different, unique ideas, which I think it's a challenge for myself because I'm like, I can't put them all in a very neat box that I might want to, but I was like, oh, wow, new ideas. I never thought about that, or like different ways of thinking about it, different ways to, solve the same problem or whatever it might be. So you're welcome to read through these in your free time. The other thing is I did also include the big, like either it's a theme in general where a lot of people were saying this, or it was stood out to me on its own, of like, oh, this is something different. We hadn't even really thought of this, and let's look into this more. So that's kind of the two different hats I'm kind of wearing with that whole situation. Before I jump into more detail and specifics, does anyone have any questions so far? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to give you the short version of everything. So the too long didn't read. I don't have time for this all day. But I think this is still a really good way to generate conversation between all of us. So, oh man, I'm trying to think of where I should start. I'll start at the bottom and move to the top because the top is like the best things that I think we could talk about. So I'll just kind of rattle off the bottom ones just so we're all aware and know about these. I thought this was a really interesting idea. And also, sorry, really quick too, if you wrote down one of these and I'm misinterpreting it, please do let me know. There is a chance of that as well. So, feel free to call that out. So yeah, post MVP, having a decentralized AI to learn from our collective consciousness, basically. I was like, wow, would have never thought of that. That's very interesting. Maybe we can weave in a AI question for post MVP stuff. And then connect the worldwide communities, a digital space that transcends into the real world, and connecting locally with people around the world. So international community, that was like a very huge theme throughout all the questions. People kept saying they want an international community. I was like, that's so cool. Like, I love that. So safety and data protection. My data is safe and not being sold. Trust that the space will not be sold out in the future. So yeah, that's also a very consistent theme throughout all the questions asked. Everyone was mentioning, there's always like peppered in something about safety and security, and feeling like this was, we're doing things the right way. Okay, becoming better than TikTok. So things like combining TikTok, Substack, and Telegram. TikTok is designed for mass engagement, not depth. We can create a greater sense of purpose. Copy the best features from other apps, like, you can read articles in other apps and do other things like that. Free and decentralized social media. And these were also kind of things sort of related, like videos are less scripted, more real and authentic, good user experience and algorithm, lots of people on the platform, inspired us to create because our voice could be heard, and better video editing than other social media apps. So that was pretty cool. And then also value, like things that people learn. This was also such a consistent theme. Everyone kept mentioning, like, we love that TikTok let us learn, like let us bridge gaps, like we know so much more now. So that was just so cool, like collective wisdom. I love like that word, that phrasing, being outside of my bubble, learning complex and new topics that broaden our mental horizons. And then also, so we're kind of moving up to the top. So these are, even more like ones that I thought were very impactful. Finding my people / community. Another, once again, I keep saying this, but a very consistent theme was finding my people as if by magic, trusting that the right people will find me. I want a hub where my community can meet, and then organizing behind causes online and in real life, and then new ways to create community hubs. And then, so from there, also inspiring a movement. This theme came out more than I expected it to. This was pretty consistent. Like, people really wanted to create change, like bigger than just the social media app, which I was like, wow, okay, I like where this is going. So inspiring a movement, supporting creators instead of the rich / big tech, and organic growth based on the needs of the people. So from there, we will move into specific features. So this is kind of like the stuff that was like, I was like, this is cool. Like, this is like really fun to read through. I like where this is going. And just so you guys understand my headspace a little bit with this, a little bit more, like from here, I would take this information and spin it into a question like that kind of pokes at something. Like, say, for example, ask users, what do you want to see today for an algorithm? Like, I could pose that question in a usability test before they take that initial usability test. Like, let's set some ground level like information about you, where like, would you like that? Would you like if someone asks like what you want to see today, or like questioned you before you get in the app, or do you prefer to just jump into the app? Like, understanding those differences, that will be it can create those little user frustrations if we're not paying attention to that stuff. And that's what's going to make them dump the app like immediately. So just really making sure our fingers on the pulse of like what the user really does want is going to be a really, obviously the market differentiator in that sense. So, so going into this stuff, the algorithm was another big one, of course. So yeah, asking users, what do you want to see today? Having the algorithm stop showing certain topics if requested, and different algorithms depending on the mood and the interest in the topic, etc. Allowing for rabbit holes without changing their For You page. And the algorithm asks for feedback from users on like labels and like how things are structured, I think is how that's meant to be read. Another one is worldwide community. I thought this was such a good idea. Having things like someone said, like Brooklyn talk, Miami talk, Nepal talk, like you're more centralized. And I think some of us have experienced that with Red Note. It's like, you're like in a different world. I was like, wow, all this stuff is going on in a totally different country. I wish I knew more about this kind of stuff. Like, you get little blips of that on TikTok. I think for all of us in one way or another, but it's never like, I don't feel like I'm visiting somewhere. Like, sorry, little rant here, but if I search on Instagram under like, if I search for something like, Scotland or whatever, it just shows me like travel stuff. I'm like, no, what are people doing in this specific town today, you know, or whatever it is. So it just is interesting. Like, I think there is that need that was pretty consistent of like having this worldwide community. So then having a locals tab where you can see what is going on close by. So that would be something, a way to bridge that gap. And then creating community. Influencers have private chat with supporters like Substack, community events hosted by similar creators, organizing behind causes online and in real life, being notified for live events planned. So not just going live, but like actually people being notified beforehand. Community hub for each creator. And then let's see, everything else. Yeah, so this is a jumbled bit, but real quick, the ethical practices, influencers being paid well. I mean, just from the little bit I've seen on the Discord as well, it seems like that's a big mission that you guys are thinking about too, which I think aligns with what we're trying to do. And that I think that could be a market differentiator as well. Allow the largest number of creators to make money and only use supportive advertisers as well. Like, you know, Ben and Jerry's was one of the ones that people noted, like, that are just more so for the people in that sense. And then everything else is positive environment instead of selling the negative. We know that, you know, it's like with the news and with so many other things, it is like easier to grab onto the negative. So yeah, making sure that the algorithm or whatever it is set towards the positive in that sense. Better video editing. And then this was like kind of like a spitball idea, but someone said like swipe for like/dislike of a particular video that they're watching. Like, how can we make it easier to like refine that algorithm? And so filters that allow for people to feel more comfortable to post. I think that's going to be a huge one as well for us. Seeing other creators' activity on the platform in a normal way, in a non-creepy way. So that was really another thing I like didn't even think about. And then having micro courses. This was a good idea. I don't know if you guys have been getting enrolled in TikTok classes, but you know, that'd be cool to have a hub for that. So I can see that being a smart idea. Yeah, so all this stuff here, really good ideas, and it's also our assumptions. So this is where I filter those assumptions into, you know, okay, tell us we're right or tell us we're wrong, you know, and let's dig into that. And you know, splicing off of that and asking other questions about other things similar to that, you know, and really diving deep. I will, you know, basically take all this, put my thinking cap on within the next few days and structure out my plan for the actual interview test thingy-majiggy. I do see it as multi-part and could last up to an hour. And I think it would involve very like foundational, very exploratory questions, theoretical, like, you know, like, you know, do you believe in a app that would be better for the world, you know, more zoomed out. But then also, you know, zooming in a little bit, asking more specific questions like this, zooming in a little bit more, and then getting into the usability test and then the post-usability test questions. So might be a little bit of a longer thing, you know, longer test, but that's kind of my mindset. And yeah, you have your hand raised as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so something interesting. I want to say something interesting I learned this weekend that is coming back to me as I read some of your distillation of this research or like previous research that was very inspiring. And I do want to ask about the form I created to do some sort of survey with different influencers. So I'll start with the thing I learned this weekend. So there is this 19-year-old boy who is kind of a genius in AI. This guy worked with Oracle, I think, and then he quit, and then he joined MIT, and then he quit. And he is being sought by all the major companies right now because he was able to understand something very interesting. So I am not exactly sure, like I'm not 100% on the story, but it goes something like this. So developers work on AI to help discover early signs of breast cancer. And that experiment sort of failed. It wasn't as effective as initially planned. And this guy was telling that the problem was the focus, that people were using AI to kind of distill all this data and put it in front of people so people could see, like maybe more effectively or whatever, but it was kind of too much. So the tweak he made on the AI was, so AI was an expansion of a person's capabilities instead of kind of doing a lot of things that this person would do, right? So what they did instead was focusing AI to highlight certain red flags that would indicate breast cancer, and the improvements on diagnostic rose dramatically. So I think what I am saying is, or what I am like, what I was kind of tying those knots while you were speaking, is how we always talk about the algorithm, and obviously we're going to use some sort of AI to run this. I may be speaking out like completely blue and imagination and horses with unicorns and blah. I don't know if this is even possible, but one of the things that is very that I notice is very stressful for people is when they are like, I need to train my algorithm. So I have to send a lot of hints. So today I'm not in the mood for heavy politics and whatever amazing thing Trump is doing today. I just want to focus on Justin Baldoni and Blake's lawsuit. Today I'm in a gossipy, but I need to like and share to train this algorithm. So why does it have to be so complicated? I am thinking we should be able to hold a conversation as users with the algorithm in a more easy way. Like, I'm not sure yet, definitely not sure how this would even work, but having the possibility of not imposing the algorithm, but we're working with freedom. We want to give freedom back to people. So you are also free to choose how you want to redirect the algorithm today. What do you want to consume and see? So that's kind of one of the things that I was kind of inspired by what you were just discussing, that like setting that apart. I want to ask, were you able to see the survey I did? I think there are many points where we are tackling the same things. Like I put that survey out in case that's something we want to do, but I want to articulate that into your whole research because I think it's amazing what you are doing. So that's another thing. I love this. I love this mapping you did, this affinity mapping, loving the results. Thank you for doing that. But I want to see how we can collaborate and how can we help you also gather, I don't know, people to interview, or how do you want to do this? How can we help?
And what was the piece of research that you have from before? You said a survey?
No, I didn't conduct a survey. I created a form so we could
Oh, okay.
start, so we can start reaching out to influencers and content creators to ask them about how they are perceiving TikTok, what would they change, etc., etc. I'm not sure if I tagged you, if you were able to see that.
Yeah, I'm not on Discord that often. Unfortunately, my schedule's kind of crazy right now. So I would say if you can send it to me directly, my name's Kasarra on Discord. So just, yeah, if you could send it to me, then I could just at least look it over. And, you know, if I have any notes or if I want to steal any of your questions or whatever, we can just collaborate from there.
Yeah. And also forgive me, is it Chiara? How can I pronounce your name?
Kiara, Hardsey.
Chiara. So Chiara also did some feedback on that I haven't been able to implement it, but I will make the adjustments and then send it to you.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, whatever we can do to like leverage each other's work so it makes us make it easier on all of us is awesome. And then I think at least one other person has their hand raised, so I'll let you guys go.
So hi guys, I joined late. Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was just on what she was just talking about. I don't know if you guys already went over the notes on the stickies and stuff like that, but it sounded like what she was talking about was a little bit one of the things that I think I had seen this on another app or someone talking about, wouldn't it be great if being able to like sort of not train your algorithm, but to have like adjustable tools. So like, for example, let's say you had like all of the different things you're interested in, like entertainment, news, recipes, whatever. And you could, had a sliding scale on your algorithm where you could turn up or turn down certain categories of content that you could kind of customize. Cause like she was saying, like you might be in a mood where you're feeling overwhelmed and like the news is way too much and you want to watch silly cat videos, or you want to connect on, some meditation or some recipes or something a little bit more tangible in your life to kind of ground you and be able to shut off all that noise. So having a little bit of customization to that would be something that I think would be tremendously useful to users.
So I was also going to add on to what Mafe and Casey you were saying, that idea of being able to like tune your algorithm, not train your algorithm, because that is, people are sort of like, I don't know how this works. Like, I think that I'm training it by liking things and interacting with them, but like an explicit tuning mechanism. And it can be something that it's not something that they set when they first set up their account, as so many of these things are. Like Blue Sky, you go on, it's like, what are you interested in? But there are other elements to it. So there's your interests, and then something that I don't know if most of you were around when we discussed this, but tuning your sort of appetite for controversy, which may change day to day. And related to that, maybe your appetite for seeing things that are like the opposite or tangential, or like a few steps away from your core interests. So you could like maybe tune like, oh, I want to see, I don't know, I all I see are cute cat videos. I want to see cute dog videos. That's like the dumbest, most surface level of that. But like, or I see all this like progressive New York stuff because of where I am and what I've liked. But I would love to see what like my dad in Wisconsin is seeing, without actually having to go to his profile and look at his reposts, because then I just go insane. That's it.
A couple of related thoughts. So one, I love the idea behind asking users, what do you want to see today? Because it's almost like setting the intention for your day, but you're doing it with an algorithm essentially. And then on that note of having it be customizable, and being able to see things that are controversial or outside our kind of usual wheelhouse. Someone else had said this, and I thought it was interesting. If there was like the phrase out of the echo chambers and onto the bridges keeps coming up. And he was like, I'm the kind of person that would like my worldview challenged. And so I want to see things that I don't agree with. And so people having the ability to toggle that on or off, I think is actually super powerful in breaking down barriers in black and white thinking. And so I don't necessarily know what that looks like, but I think it could be beautiful if we got it right.
I wonder if you could have like, I love that, what you were saying, like getting us out of our bubble. I wonder if you could have a couple things. If you could customize it, I wonder if, like you were saying, setting your intention for the day, maybe you have some faves, like you could name these settings, like this is my happy place setting, this is my local setting, this is my, you know what I mean? Because I'm like a Pinterester and I like to stay organized. And so if I could just like be like, oh, it's as easy as what mood am I in? And I could go to my save settings. And then also what you just said, Kiara, what if you could almost do like, if you have like your traditional, like this is the culmination of your typical feed, you could push a button and say, show me the inverse of my feed, like show me the opposite of my feed, like blow my mind, right? Like if we could get really, really good at getting people exactly what they want, and also a real fast way to challenge anything they're seeing. Because I'll tell you now, the way that I've seen politics and things play out, I instantly search both sides because I don't believe a single thing that I see, and I want to be exposed to everything.
Yeah, really quick too, just to add to this. I don't know if you guys remember, YouTube used to do this. I don't think they do it anymore. We're used to be able to, I never tried it, so I'm speaking out of my ass right now, but you used to be able to pick different colors that were like different versions of your account that you could like pop into different stuff. And I liked the concept. It was something weird about the colors that like I got weirded out by that I it makes sense in design practice, but in execution, it's like weird for the user. But you could like, there's days where I'm like, I just want to listen to chill music in the background and just do that. Or there's some days where I'm like, oh, I want to watch all the political videos I can. Like, so it made sense in terms of like allowing for that space. So yeah, my mind immediately just went to that concept as well. Go ahead, Adam.
From a technical standpoint, everything you've said is feasible, and a lot of it were things I was already having in mind. So it's easy to caught up in what does TikTok do. But if you start looking at other platforms, typically at the top, you're going to have a bunch of different areas of interest, which you can opt into and build. But I am kind of digging the whole idea of why can't it be a verbal command? Why does it have to be what you have today? Why can't I talk to my app? Even if I don't have it built in, why do I need to go 3 clicks through and search to then try to find a feed that looks, it may or may not be right? You know, we're in a day and age of access is key. So let's take one step further. But I will call out this. There's a lot of ideas here, and I think we need to hone in on a stacked rank order of what we think the priority is, because we don't have a lot of developers, right? So what we can do is I'm leaning towards having to start off using the AT protocol with the Blue Sky app, and already has a lot of this functionality built in to be able to do channels and building custom feeds. And I think if we set up our own feed generator, the way that would work is as you use the app, your For You channel can change, but you can have multiple feeds, right? That you already have pre-selected. So it's kind of like when they ask the question, I want to do gardening, I want to do pet videos, I want to do humor, I want to do news, I want to do world politics, I want to do travel. You can set those up, but also based on your use case, we can kind of like pre-track what you're really into and put that in a For You page. And then you can still go in and put sliders on it if you want, but we'll start off with that. If you let it run, it's going to start drifting based off of what are you skipping past? Well, I'm not going to show you things you're skipping past them, right? But I'm really liking it. We can have multiple channels is what I'm really getting at. I can have a For You channel. I can have a chill channel. I can have, I just want to relax and listen to music channel. I want to dive into book talk today, you know? I don't want my For You channel, but if you want to, go for the For You channel. If you want to do open discovery, you can do that. The antithesis channel, no reason why we can't do that. It's really just taking what categories are and sentiment analysis and just going, well, great, I've got videos that are the antithesis of this. Okay, so if you got a channel, I know what it's made up of. If it's got 60% cat videos, 20% world news, and 10% atrocities, well, I can flip that and get you, you know, dog videos, happy news, and local news, or, you know, trying to do a channel which is a antithesis sentiment is going to be challenging because channels are so broadly defined. If you've got a video with a certain opinion, I might be able to do an anti-opinion, but that is, we're talking probably 12 months to 16 months down the road or something like that. But if you stack rank what you want, you say that's, if we get down to the point and everyone's like, by God, I want the antithesis feature above all else, all right, we'll build it.
Yeah, this is great news to hear. Sorry, really quick to interject. Yeah, so it's always good to hear that this is, most of the stuff is, you know, pretty feasible. So that's exciting. The one thing I'll say is like, I currently don't have anything where I'm like, okay, we should be building this. There's nothing I'm really like feeling gung-ho about. And the reason is because I still want to do that research and let the users decide and go, hey, this is what we want, you know. And this is the fun thing about research is I get to be the idiot in the room at all times, where I'm always like, I don't know I don't know how to answer you, because you know, I always like to let the users decide what's most important, and they always love to prove me wrong, because I'll have my own assumptions. I'm like, oh, this is such a cool feature, I love it, and half the time they'll like hate it, you know. So you never know. And I mean, our own discretion will be a part of this too, you know. We'll, you know, if there is something that we all are like, no, this is huge, this is, you know, AI, there's a phrase for AI where it's like either creepy or cool, where AI a year or two ago would be considered creepy. Like, oh, you know all the info about me, I'm asking you very personal questions, you know, that might have been creepy, but now it's cool. So like, you know, now we want to be on the cutting edge, so having that discernment's important. But yeah, so that's all I'll say about that. I'll let you guys go.
I have a question for you, Adam. So one thing I am good at as a user experience designer is identifying friction points. And there's a huge friction point when we're asking people to switch platforms. And I've spent years training this. And now you ask me to go into a new platform, and I have to again tell you, yes, I like books, I like mountains, I like whatever, riding bicycles. It's painful. Is there a way that we can sort of download who people are following and translate it into Blue Sky to already have something instead of starting from zero? Like, I know that, you know, thank God to this TikTok debacle, and everyone kind of left and we dispersed into so many social medias. A lot of people landed in Blue Sky. So we already have a good base of people who opened Blue Sky channels in this situation-ish that we had. Is there a way that we can like download that data, contrast it, and make them already follow people they were following in TikTok to reduce friction? And that is going to probably motivate people to transition to another platform. It's not going to be so hard at starting over. So that's the question. Do you think we can do it?
I think we can. As far as the exact data points we can get to, I know that when TikTok was shutting down, creators were able to pull their data. I think end users were actually able to pull, I think, their comments, their likes as well. There was another comment here basically saying that I think Book Talk had already done that. So I think there actually are already implementations for doing that data extract, but we're somewhat at the mercy of how long is TikTok going to keep that functionality available. So short answer, yes. How we'd implement it, research. Again, there's some good points on here, I think, about other solutions already do that. So we can go grab one and test it. Yep.
I see we got a lot of hands raised, so I'll let you guys talk real quick, and then we'll move on to the next steps. Anyone else?
Katie, you're on mute.
Following up on what you said earlier about YouTube, that feature of YouTube and having different spaces. I think in this conversation and in this round of research, for the most part, we're using ourselves as users, and for the most part, we are consumers of content, not creators of content. And even those who are creators are also consumers. So it seems like we're coming from that perspective. And one of the things I think was, Senia, was that you who said there was, we could use the creators like why I'll miss TikTok as a research, like a portal into research for what they'll miss? I know that I saw a lot of things around community, but talking about YouTube reminded me of this, because that seems to be the place where creators have the most control over their community, just as a sort of comparative place to look for how they're doing that, because it seems like where creators are happiest with their ability to kind of filter what commenters are able to say, how they're able to kind of shape the community around their content.
So
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I was just wondering, this is actually just more of a question, kind of what you, Adam, were talking about. Is it possible? So you know how like everybody kind of dispersed, and yes, a lot of people went to Blue Sky, but a lot of people went to other apps too, like Substack and just a gazillion others, right? Totally thinking outside the box here, but you know, just like when you do like translations from, you know, computer softwares and such, would there be any way to say, okay, input your Substack handle and we'll find all your similar followers that you have. Input your Instagram handle, we'll find, because it's like cross indexing. If we had everybody's usernames, that it could actually do the work for you to make it easier.
Again, so not everybody created their usernames to the same username when they moved over, but we could try to find things that are matches. There's no guarantee that a match of one username from one platform to the other platform is the same user.
No, I guess more what I'm saying is like you would have like a screen where you would say my username is blank on this and blank on this, and it would crawl and pull in cross-referencing who you follow on those accounts to help make it easy. So it would take away the need for any of the handles to be the same. You would go in and input your own individual handles on, let's say, the top 10, you know, social medias or something like that. Just thinking outside the box.
As long as the platform offers a hook that we can get in and do that. I mean, you could do scraping, but I don't really want to get into the business of doing web scraping. Almost all these platforms have a web page, so yes, theoretically it could be done. Having built web scraping and supported them, I don't enjoy doing that, but if they've got a hook for it, we can give it a shot. There's some traction in the communities where people are making interoperability apps between platforms, so that you know, contributors can basically post to multiple locations. Pros and cons to that, you know, if you can post to multiple locations, do we really want people supporting platforms we're not overly thrilled with based on, you know, who's behind them? I don't know. Do we just not get into that and leave it to the content creators to make that call? Did I answer your question?
It did, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So a few thoughts and ideas. The idea of porting information about a user to like immediately inform the algorithm, I like it because it feels like a housewarming gift. It's like, hello, welcome, we already get you. And that to me is a very cool touch. There was also, so in that section toward the end under ethical practices, this idea of paying creators well. I think that, and I don't know if this is a metric or just a broader idea, but this idea of empowering the maximum number of people to make a living doing what they love. Like if that can be part of what we offer to people, like this is something that we care deeply about, because TikTok started to move it in that direction, right? But it could undoubtedly have done more. I think that could be a really beautiful thing. And then the last thing is, Adam made a really good point about us needing to stack rank these things at some point. And I think that the research, by the way, Cassandra, this is beautifully done. Like this is inspiring such great conversation. You are clearly a master of your craft and I'm in admiration. One thing that has come up again and again in the TikTok videos and also in the Reddit is people really emphasizing the algorithm. They're like, well, it won't work because you don't have the algorithm. And so I think that piece tells us that that's really important to people. It's like universal. And then the other thing is that in our conversations about key early adopters, this idea that we should be going after creators because they technically hold the keys to the collective, right? If you can get creators of, you know, small, medium, big creators, whatever, but if you could get them over onto this platform and they bring their community, that just amplifies our reach right out of the gate. And so also considering prioritizing the features that are going to be most appealing to creators, and that's likely going to be the ones that are in the realm of community building, whether that's a hub where they can share other kinds of content that they create, maybe they write, maybe they have music or something that can live in that profile. And that's obviously not MVP, but just thinking how we do this to prioritize creators, the idea of being able to film in app, things of that nature, even like being able to have micro courses in your community hub. So whatever that ends up looking like, just I think 2 things to take into consideration when we're considering how we stack rank.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly talk about what you were saying earlier about, making sure we're paying the largest amount of creators. I think there still is a little bit of stigma, at least within my experience, about creators where, you do it for free for so long and then hopefully you start to get monetized. I know on Instagram, from what I understand, it's even harder. So, which is a big barrier for people. Some people that, they can't spend all this time for no money doing this thing. Like, yes, it shows that they're passionate, whatever, but like, like you have to be able to support yourself through it. So like the more I was thinking about it and just like analyzing this information, people kept mentioning like paying creators well. I'm like, yeah, like they should pretty quickly be at least making minimum wage. Like it should be like, you should have like, you could be a micro influencer making minimum wage off of that work. Like, I think that that's totally reasonable. And so then you just grow from there. And like, yeah, I think someone mentioned like maybe a cap of some sort. And, being able to work within that, I think that makes so much more sense, than the current system we have. Cause these are jobs, like these are blatantly jobs for people. Yeah, go ahead before, and I'll let a few more people through, and then we'll talk about the next steps.
Yeah, I have 2 food for thought things to say. So I guess, and I'm circling back in what Casey and I were saying about like figuring out how to import people's data from other places. I just want you to think creatively and have Apple as the reference. When you transition from one phone to the other, it's very seamless. So keep that in the back of your mind to see what comes in one dream or whatever while you're showering, and you'll get like, I know how to do this. So keep that in the back of your mind. And something interesting to research is, I think we've said so many inspiring things that I'm like, I need this app yesterday. It sounds so fun and there's so many amazing features. But I want us, obviously, we need to think about an MVP, right? So is there a way in which we could use the research to refine what would be this thing? I think that we have so many amazing hooks, like paying content creators or being able to own your own algorithm as well, or, I don't know, so many other things. So I am interested in thinking we have to go to market and we have to start with a bang. We have to come forward, not just an alternative to TikTok, because Skylight is already doing that, but we have to have a very clear and powerful differentiator. So just to keep that in mind, which one is it going to be? Because there's so many great things that we've discussed.
Yeah, totally. On the note of Skylight, after listening to Adam's kind of report on that, I'm not super worried because it sounds like all they're doing is reskinning Blue Sky. And I think Tori is awesome and has a lot of tenacity. I don't think she has much of a product strategy or go to market from what I've seen. So there is that, but at the same time, she's 2 steps ahead in a sense. And I think that we can actually learn a lot from her. I've been keeping an eye on like, oh, where did you have trouble in the App Store? Oh, you have a problem with spicy content and it's not getting flagged appropriately. And so like we kind of get to learn through her a little bit vicariously. And then the other piece was, I think I'll tag you guys, or I'll drop a link, but Adam had also posted like kind of a napkin sketch outline for what an MVP could look like. And that was obviously from the perspective of tech without having folded in the UX research yet. And what he posted is very much doable. It sounds like within a 2-month timeline. Adam, you can speak more to that, but maybe there's an opportunity to synthesize there. And I'll look for the link in the meantime.
Okay. So bottom line is we have pretty much nothing. So a lot of times the best way of starting from nothing is to stand on the shoulders of giants. Now, giants, all the source code locked down. So the next closest thing we have would be Blue Sky with their 26 million users. So Blue Sky leverages the AT protocol. We could go off and build our own totally from scratch product line or we could basically take the Blue Sky product, their customer base, and give a better user interface. Blue Sky does not have the best of content creation tools. Their user interface to me is a bit cumbersome and unwieldy. It definitely needs to be streamlined. So that's pretty much the fastest way where we could get to a point where we've got something so that we've got a name recognition in the space that we can then start building on top of. So to me, the MVP would be, can I view and do I have a clean viewing experience? Can I basically post content with a more pleasant experience where I could actually do a straightforward video capture, much like what you can see in the straightforward production quality that you get from TikTok, but not to the extent of all the filters that TikTok offers you. It's pretty much going to be, you can do content, right? You can post and get your message out. To me, from a technical standpoint, that's a starting point. And then from there, that gives us time while we're building that to refine what the creators want. What are we getting from our user surveys? What's our stack rank list of what are the wow factor? What's our differentiating factor that we can do? We've got roughly, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 developers. And I would say if you count 3 or 4 developers, you really got 1 because everyone's a volunteer. You can't build anything with 1 developer typically, especially from the ground up. So that's the reason why we're pitching to start with, take Blue Sky, it's open source. We can make it work and make it look like its own product line, and then we can put it into a store and sell it. We can start adding in tip features, so if we get a stack rank list of, what's the, hard to say, stack rank lists are great for what people want, but sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit for what is time possible. So there's 2 factors going there. From a technical standpoint, what can we get done in a reasonable time frame to make sure that we are moving forward and showing progress? Did that cover the topic?
I just have one question on that. I totally get what you're saying as far as we don't have the resources now. When we had been, and this is my husband, Chris, he's
Hey, Chris.
kind of been helping me with what we were working on before, but everything that we found or everything that we were kind of looking at was like, okay, there's 2 ways of going about it, right? Trying to develop the app first on low resources, and you're looking at a longer period of time because we, just everything you just said. The way that we had kind of thought about it was to actually get people on our biggest differentiator, which is not the features. It is the governance. It is the way that the monies would be used. It is them investing in helping us build the best app possible. Because when I do like consulting, I always tell people like, we can get really lost if we start somewhere that isn't ideal because of factors that we're trying to mitigate. If we can actually start with our purpose, and our purpose is what we intend to do with it, if we start with that and get the monies into where then we can hire 10 developers, actually hire them, and the people who are buying into the coin are actually funding the creation of the app, then it's created ground up with all the functionality designs that they want, getting them inspired to invest in helping us get the money to do it the right way the first time around, which is always the better way to do it.
I agree 100% with everything you just said. I think that I'm looking at it from the technical standpoint, and I firmly believe right now with the AT protocol being decentralized and what they've got for that, that's still a 3-year investment of, even if I had a team of 20 people to get to what they've got right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we can afford to wait for 3 years to have something that is showable, versus we could build off of what Blue Sky has,
Mm-hmm.
get a much more refined platform where people can get their message out and have their voice heard and start building a community. But that's me on the technical side, right? I'm more than happy to work on what our message, what our mission is, and marketing. Because I mentioned earlier, like, we can get you an app that you can monetize at, a couple of dollars on an app store that people will pay for, because A lot of people hate the blue sky interface. I just give somebody a cleaner interface, they're going to be thrilled to just throw a few dollars at you. 26 million people, if you get, an eighth of those at $1, well, that's some running capital, right? But to your point, yes, having that mission and getting that buy-in is a really important step that should be running parallel and should be launched before we get a product out on the market. So if I can get a product in 2 months, we need to get a mission statement within 2 months, and we need to have that publicity and make sure people understand that we're not here for a money grab. We're here to make a platform for the people, governed by the people, that is not going to be ripped out from underneath them. Does that help?
Yeah, no, it does. So I guess, are you thinking of doing a coin release first, or what is the plan? Or maybe I need to ask offline if I don't want to derail things you guys have already talked about.
I don't know if we had talked much about coin, to be honest. I think that might be a conversation that we have maybe in one of the roundtables, but I think that warrants a much larger conversation.
Okay.
It's not my wheelhouse. I know that you're very well versed in it and had done a lot of legwork there. So would love to get the download from you on everything
Okay.
you've learned. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, so right now you're still exploring all options. There isn't one specific path that's been decided on how you guys want to fund and all of that stuff.
Yeah, so the fundraising strategy, the only thing that's been decided is that we're not going to accept like large VC or big investors that would take us away from the mission and giving them, governance or whatever. And I think we were already aligned there. But honestly, part of the reason that I pulled you in was because I knew that you would have ideas on the fundraising strategy. And no, it's not decided. And I think that you could have some really very helpful insight on all of that.
Totally. Sorry to throw a monkey wrench
No
in.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer, if we're going to be doing this, all finances should probably go through a blockchain, no matter what, even if it's
Yes.
not tied to a coin.
100%.
There are blockchain solutions that you can tie into accounts. If you have a corporate account, you can basically hook a blockchain up to it, and it will track everything that goes in and out of that corporate account. And that's publicly available for people to see. The only downside I would call out is crypto is scary for some people. They don't understand it. They don't trust it. They don't want to get involved in it. There's some bad press with it. So I think it's good to have open to be not only, a coin as far as how the funding should come about. And I don't think we would go down, only being coin, but because some people just are not ready for that in their life.
Yeah, I definitely, I'll go over some of the things that I've looked into another time, but there are mixes that I've looked into where it's like a portion is tied to USD, or USD, like a fiat tied coin where it's still blockchain, it's still a coin, but it has a real world value in a fiat, like a USD or whatever. But anyways, so sorry guys. Go back to your regularly scheduled programming.
No, I think it's an excellent point, and it needs to be brought up sooner rather than later.
Yeah, this is all good conversation. I am going to move us along just because we only have a few minutes left. I want to allow time. If you do need to drop, you can drop. We might take a few extra minutes. But yeah, this is great conversation. I was really nervous that it would just be me talking the whole time. So I'm glad that's not the case. And we're, I wrote down a bunch of ideas you guys had. If there's anything I missed, let me know. My brain just kind of is a little bit dead this time of night. So please send any other ideas you have my way. I can add them to the Figma board. But yeah, this is great. And Adam, something that you talked about earlier, as well as, feasibility within these grandiose ideas we have, which I do want to just acknowledge, because I know, we have timelines, we have constraints, we want to be aware of different things. So even if users are like, I want this particular feature, if it's a crazy, crazy feature that's like way out of scope, then okay, we need to have that conversation and, maybe pull it back a bit. So I just wanted to bring us all down to earth for a hot second. But yeah, moving on. So just to give you guys a quick idea, this is like basically my to-do list is the way I look at this. There is design work woven in here, but it is more centered on what I need to do and what I need to get done on the research side. so really quick, we'll just run through. We had that internal discovery workshop. That was, this guy right here that we went through. So that's all good. And then I analyzed the results. So we're good with that. So now you can see this project overview. I mean, it's basically this. So, actually, you know what? I could go on this a little bit more. So I will be sure to work on this because I want to get more of a research outline, I should say. So see, I'm making mistakes over here, but it's fine. So the big things that I really want to do, I feel really good about these next steps in terms of research to create the interview. What I mean by that is taking all of this information and formulating questions, bouncing off of that to create this structure of the interview. Once I have that done, I'll send it to you guys. You can look it over. I'll probably have the question and then why I asked the question, just so you have greater context as what I'm trying to dig at with one particular question or another. So I'll do that as well as creating the project overview. And the project overview is just being more detailed and saying like the problem statement, hypothesis, the target participants, just more of a broad scope of details, just so we're all informed of like, oh, this is what I'm trying to get at with this whole thing. And the one thing I do need help with, though, I was going to see if anyone from the design side or whoever wanted to help with this, is the online and competitor research. And so what I mean by that basically is going into, I know we have these 2 documents here that are like the different competition and what they have and everything. And then basically from there, taking that and kind of spinning it and putting on your research hat and asking questions surrounding that. So I'll use this as an example. A bunch of people in the Figma were talking about events like mobilizing and things like that. Made me think of this website. So if I were doing this to-do list here of like, oh, what are the competitors doing? I would look at this and go, okay, do people want to have events shown this way, like shown on the home page? Is this how they prefer it? Do people want to be able to filter out for different things? And maybe I would take a screenshot of this and include that in a little like document with different questions that I'm thinking of. So it's nothing too high stakes in that sense. Basically what I'm trying to do is, it's that research before the design in the sense of like, do people like things this way? Does this make sense for people? Like, and kind of letting yourself kind of dig on that. And I would say, if you're not sure if you should be asking this question, does it make sense? Go ahead and ask it, include it in the document. I could always, take it out if it ends up, not making the cut. So that's like the worst case scenario. So I did want to see if anyone was interested in that. Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry. I was going to mention, Senya and I, we're going to actually start working on a competitive analysis, but from a design point of view. We were going to extract patterns, UI colors, etc., etc. But I think we can definitely blend this too to create a very compelling competitor research. So I think we can both collaborate on that. I think we can work on that this week. But are you open for us to work in Figma instead of a document, so we can be a little bit more messy and pull resources? Because one of my ideas to speed up the process is to start gathering okay, so what kind of probably icons we're going to need. So we decided we're going to start working with the Lucite icon pack. So we're just going to start creating our own icon set and colors, start gaining inspiration for colors and everything. So we can definitely mix this too. It would be great if you can help us with those questions that we can also be scoping while we're doing this competitive research. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that sounds good to me. So if I were you, just kind of think spitballing here, but create the document as you see fit, or the Figma, I should say. But just have it somewhere where maybe you have a certain color for maybe questions that come up as you go along and that make you think of things. that I know I can pop in and and really quickly look at the document and use a certain, see a certain color. And then I know to like look at that question. But then also that's a good opportunity for me to just like scan through the work you have and just be like, oh, okay, any other questions coming up for me, or, just making sure every stone is turned in that sense. But yeah, that would be fine with me.
So something I'd love, oh, sorry. Go for
Just
it.
a quick note. Katie did a fantastic first swing at a competitor analysis. It sounds like you're doing something slightly different because it's more from the design perspective, but just wanted to make sure that you had seen her comp analysis, just so we're not doubling back on work.
Thank you for pointing that out. I think we should, yes, definitely centralize and integrate everything. So I'll make sure we get a good look at that. Awesome. I'm going to structure kind of a template we can use. Something I would love, Cassandra, for you to help with is after I'm done with the template, questions from a more user point of view more than design that we can incorporate in this analysis. Like, for example, something very UI oriented would be, does everyone has a search functionality? So yeah, are there other like things you want us to specifically look into? That is going to be super helpful.
Yeah. I think that will come with time, but I know we also, I'm a little bit of the bottleneck here. I admit that. So I'm trying to, make it easier for you guys. So we'll iron that out as we go along. And then really quick too, I just want to note as well, and I know I am being a little bit of the bottleneck, but a lot of companies, and I would probably lump Blue Sky into this too, they're not really doing any research before they're launching this stuff. As someone who's worked, I'm sure you guys have similar experiences where like the boss says he likes this color, so we do this color type of thing. And that happens times about 100. Throughout the whole website, app, whatever you want to call it. So the fact that we're actually paying attention to users is pretty huge. But yeah, so, okay. Anyone else need to have a comment or something?
Yeah, I think, Nafe, you were asking about sort of things to prioritize or features to prioritize or even down to UI elements to prioritize. Adam and someone else in the engineering guild channel have outlined kind of the two dev streams that are going on. So one is the content creation stream or use case, and the other one is viewing your feed use case. So I think if you're looking at UI elements and like user stories, I would start with those two and identify the pieces in there, and maybe they map to some of the things that Cassandra has surfaced so far and questions that she's planning to ask. So as you're synthesizing all of these different analyses, I would keep those in mind. And I tagged all of the design and research teams on those threads.
Okay, I'll have to take a look. Yeah, I feel like I've been missing a lot in Discord. I have not been able to keep up as much as I'd like, but yeah, if I'm tagged, I'll take a look. Okay, cool. So really quick, I just want to go through the rest of what I'm thinking for the research side, and we can call it a day officially. I will say for this work that I'm trying to get done, number 4 and 5, I do want to have those done within the next few days because I know we are on a pretty tight timeline on the research side. So if this competitor research can be done alongside that within a few days, that's great. But I'm not here to, beg too much, I guess. So, do that what you will. So then from there, design side, I will be working with you where I'm going to go to you and other people as well and go, hey, here you go. I have all the questions I want to ask. I feel that these are important. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. And we have a discussion about it if we find that necessary. And then from there, so this is where I personally trip up. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just to briefly talk this through. I know we have different feelings about doing a usability test before we've properly questioned users. So what I mean by that the nice way to do it, the fancy way to do it that I usually prefer when I have a giant company backing me up, is to ask a bunch of questions about this theoretical thing that's a new concept. And then once I have those answers, I build out the app from there, and then I validate it. It's either valid or invalid, then that's a come to Jesus moment type of thing. And then you make the adjustments from there, you test again, So I think what we're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, and design, you can tell me if you're feeling confident for this, we're trying to lump the testing together. We're trying to, after I'm done with this basic research, I will have the questions ready for you guys, but then also we're doing a usability test, which means that you guys have to have a functioning prototype. And so that's I know that's a lot, but it sounds like that's probably the best way to go about it for the sake of time. And then from there, we can test it again and go from there. What do you guys think?
I think there's
Yeah,
actually
I
maybe
love it.
we might have a middle step where we can take screens and things that we are going to move into this functional prototype, or even into the MVP, because some of these major features Adam has said could be available in 2 months. But before that, we don't even really need to have it clickable, but just something to put in front of creators so that they can share their thoughts with just a few screens. And those could be app screens. They could be, it could be our crowdfunding page. We can kind of think broadly about what it is that what artifacts we want to put in front of people. But I think we can do that middle step before we have this like functioning interactive prototype.
Yeah, I like that. That works better for me. I think that takes the stress off our backs of going, like, having to, assume different things and rush to conclusions. Instead, we can, what do we really want to show the users? What are the most vital screens to show them that we want their feedback on? It sounds like is your mentality. So that works for me. Yeah. Cool.
I am
Everyone's cool.
all for it. And if we would have the time, like, I'm not sure, because obviously our time fluctuates because we all have other things to do. So we could either take that quick approach that I love. But if we have time and we're like, okay, so I have 1 hour to spare, let's prototype this. So why not? We will see on that as we evolve. But something I am kind of lost still is kind of the user stories that we're going to develop. Obviously, that would come after research. But yeah, that's kind of something important to touch base. Like, what are the first screens we're going to create? The user stories that we're gonna yeah. So what is gonna be our MVP, so we can also keep that in mind.
Yeah, agreed. And I will say too about personas. I think we can use some of I know we have an Excel sheet or Google sheet floating around with some people's info that are participants in the research. We could leverage that, but I do also plan on asking some, maybe more so personal questions, like, I can't even think of any, but like, just getting more deep into, like, what are your motivations? Why are you interested in this? And understanding that to build out a better persona in that way. Cool. Okay, that's all I got, guys.
To do that with, sorry, are you thinking you want to do that with creators, or because that is who we're kind of moving toward as users? Or if you want a more general population, we have a lot of people in a bunch of those forums who are maybe not experienced enough to be part of the actual build team at the moment, but who want to be involved. Some of them are very small scale creators themselves. So you can look through there, and
I think the answer is both. Yeah, because in my mind, I'm going, who is a true user? Well, it's both the creator and the person that takes in the info, so it's like, I see it being pretty multidimensional in that sense. So yeah, that would be ideal.
I can ask a few people that I'm connected with on TikTok, and I know that Ally has, I think his wife has a significant following on Witch Talk, and then they have a friend that also does. And so we can pull in some people that way too, as far as creators. Katie, I would just want to touch base with you and maybe Todd about the messaging in that, but we can do that offline. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's all I got, guys. This was great. Sorry this took so long, but we had a lot of really good questions. So this was really well done. I wish all of my research projects went this well. Like this is, you guys are all very on board, which is freaking me out. I'm waiting for someone to like just be like, no, I don't know. So this is great.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys. Please message me directly if you do have any questions or thoughts on anything, because I am bad at checking Discord. So please do that.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a great
Bye.
one.
Bye.
Bye.